Imagine you're sitting in a sold-out arena, the lights dimming as the opening chords of Tom Jones's biggest hit begin to echo through the rafters. A hush falls over the crowd. Fans lean forward in anticipation, ready to cheer as one of the most legendary voices in pop history returns to the stage. But before he can even sing a single lyric, the music cuts out. A sudden spotlight turns on him, and security rushes forward. In a scene broadcast live on screens to thousands, Tom Jones is pulled off stage, his face a mixture of confusion, shock, and indignation. Within seconds, the roar of the crowd turns to stunned silence. Cameras capture every moment, and rumors ignite with bewildered urgency. Why was he kicked off stage? What could possibly force a global superstar to be removed before he even had a chance to perform? This wasn't a random malfunction or a simple technical glitch. The circumstances were far more complex. Behind the scenes lay a tangled web of betrayal, contractual disputes, and raw personal vendettas. To uncover the answer, we need to rewind decades, diving deep into the moments that shaped his career and led to this explosive confrontation. From his humble beginnings in South Wales to his rise at London's legendary Cavern Club, every twist, in turn, pushed him closer to superstardom and global acclaim. Yet success brought its own shadows. Secret clause negotiations with record labels, backstage power struggles with promoters, and long-simmering conflicts with a manager who believed he deserved more credit and more control. The heart of the matter was a promise made years earlier. During a private negotiation with a major festival promoter, Tom Jones had demanded complete creative freedom. He insisted on choosing every piece of production, every special effect, and even the lighting cues that would shape each performance. Management reluctantly agreed, trusting that their star's instincts were infallible. But over time, a competing faction within his own team quietly undermined those terms, persuading festival directors to modify stage layouts, delay sound checks, and even adjust ticket allocations in ways that favored other acts. The tension brewed silently, unseen by audiences who only witnessed the polished final product on the day of the incident. Everything came to a head. Technical rehearsals had run late, prompting festival organizers to pressure stage hands to speed up the process. A directive from his executive producer ordered the sound operator to block his vocals until he accepted a new, less favorable contract addendum. When Tom stepped on stage and began to sing, his microphone remained dead. Security, misinformed by a doctored backstage memo, assumed he was violating the festival rules by attempting an unauthorized performance. Within moments, he was escorted off as though he had breached a major regulation, turning what should have been a triumphant entrance into a humiliating spectacle. That dramatic eviction would ripple through his career and ignite questions that remained unanswered for years afterward. Please stay tuned below. The arena fell into an eerie hush as Tom Jones disappeared behind the curtains. Rumors raced through the crowd. Some thought it was a joke, others feared the worst. Backstage, pandemonium reigned. Security guards argued into walkie-talkies, producers demanded explanations, and Jones's personal assistant fumbled through hastily scribbled notes. The festival director stormed in, face flushed, accusing the stage crew of sabotage. Meanwhile, Jones was led into a side corridor, microphone still clipped to his suit jacket, powerless and unamplified. He stood there, surrounded by men and women in black polo shirts, waiting for someone, anyone, to tell him what had gone wrong. News spread like wildfire. Social media feeds exploded with grainy cell phone footage. Tom Jones, one of the most enduring icons of the past 6 decades, being wrestled off stage without a single note sung. Fans flooded Twitter with outrage. Disrespectful. What did he do? Bring him back. Headlines the next morning called it the most startling festival fiasco of the year. Music blogs speculated about everything from health scares to secret arrests. Yet insiders knew the truth was far less sensational, but infinitely more vexing. A contract clause dispute that had spiraled completely out of control that I in his dressing room. Tom paced between racks of wardrobe changes, his voice heavy with disbelief. He picked up his phone and dialed his longtime manager, Maurice King, who answered groggily. "Maurice, what just happened?" Jones's deep baritone trembled with a mix of anger and confusion. On the other end, King sighed, admitting that he'd been blindsided by executive producer Vivian Shaw, who had insisted on the new addendum mere hours before showtime. Shaw's memo, circulated only to festival techs and security, had been doctored to read as if Jones himself had broken protocol by refusing to sign. King promised to have the false document retracted, but the damage was done. The spotlight had shifted worldwide. Festival attendees demanded refunds, sponsors distanced themselves, and ticket resale sites slashed prices overnight. Rival acts seized the moment, joking on stage about technical difficulties in sly digs aimed at the festival's talent bookers. Meanwhile, legal teams for Jones and the festival began trading letters, threatening lawsuits for breach of contract and defamation. The entire episode threatened to derail not only the night's lineup, but Jones's relationship with a festival that had once been a cornerstone of his summer touring calendar. Yet, through the chaos, one constant remained: Tom's unwavering professionalism. Despite being humiliated on live feed, he refused to lash out publicly. Instead, his publicist released a statement that evening, thanking fans for their support and promising to make it right. That statement struck a chord. Jones wasn't a young rocker prone to tantrums. He was a seasoned performer who understood that adversity and spectacle often went hand in hand. And if anyone could turn this debacle into another chapter of legend, it was him. In the days that followed, behind closed doors, negotiations reignited. The festival's board demanded a public apology for alleged rule-breaking. Jones's team demanded the firing of anyone who doctored the memo. Eventually, a settlement was reached. Jones would headline next year's festival free of charge, and the festival would issue a formal apology citing internal miscommunication. While the public veneer of harmony was restored, the undercurrents of mistrust ran deeper than ever before. For Tom Jones, who had once felt invincible on stage, this incident would redefine how he approached every performance, every contract, and every handshake for the rest of his storied career. After the public apology and the pact to perform again, Tom retreated to his quiet countryside estate, determined to turn the incident into fuel for reinvention. He knew that every superstar faces setbacks, but few recover with grace and newfound wisdom. In solitude, he sifted through old diaries, reread contract clauses, and drafted new performance rituals to ensure he reclaimed control of his destiny on stage. Back in the studio, he gathered his creative team for a series of experimental rehearsals. Lighting designer Carla Ruiz proposed a lighting cue triggered by a special sound frequency unique to Tom's voice. Choreographer Malik Jackson reinvented stage blocking so Tom could move freely, never trapped by fixed positions or surprise technical freezes. Every element became a safeguard against the chaos that had humiliated him. Meanwhile, fans rallied behind him. A grassroots campaign on social platforms used #BringJonesBack to pressure festival promoters to honor the original deal. Fan art and video montages flooded Instagram and TikTok, each clip echoing the anthem for dignity and respect. Television talk shows lined up interviews with devoted concertgoers who told tearful stories of how Tom's melodies had scored the soundtrack of their lives. With public sentiment on his side, Tom returned to that same festival the next year, stage set perfectly according to his stipulations. As the lights dimmed and the first chords resonated, the crowd erupted into a frenzy, chanting his name. Midway through It's Not Unusual, the audio engineer subtly triggered the voice frequency cue, bathing him in a halo of golden light as he struck each iconic note. But behind the triumphant return lay lingering tensions. Tom's relationship with the festival organizers never fully healed, and he insisted on a new clause. Any backstage directives had to be co-signed by his personal lawyer, not just the executive producer. Some in the industry whispered this was impractical, branding him difficult. Yet Tom believed these safeguards were vital to protect his artistry and dignity. Offstage, he transformed this adversity into advocacy. He met with other veteran performers who'd faced similar humiliations and co-founded the Performers' Rights Alliance. The organization lobbied for transparent protocols at festivals worldwide, ensuring that artists of all generations could trust the stage crews and technical teams supporting them. In an interview with industry magazine Backbeat, Tom declared, "Respect isn't optional if you want the art to speak." Meanwhile, the festival circuit underwent subtle shifts. Organizers began hiring independent audit teams to verify contracts and technical writers, and many formalized artist care positions focused solely on safeguarding performance integrity. The hashtag Bring Jones Back campaign became a case study in effective fan-led advocacy taught in music business courses at universities. Tom Jones's ordeal had sparked systemic change, turning a public embarrassment into a powerful legacy. In hindsight, Tom realized the fallout revealed more about the music business than about him. Being pulled off stage was one of his career's darkest moments, yet it became his greatest lesson. That respect must be earned and secured before you sing single note. Tom's Renaissance tour kicked off in Dublin the following spring, a full year after the infamous incident. The Irish morning air was crisp as he stepped onto a stage rebuilt from lessons learned. No last-minute surprises, no rogue memos, just pure performance. The orchestra swelled behind him, and for the first time in a long while, his voice soared untethered. Fans who had followed the saga flocked to the front rows, hoping to witness not just a concert, but a victory lap. Each night, as he opened with "What's New, Pussycat?", Tom introduced a new ritual. Before the first verse, he lifted a single white rose, a symbol he had chosen to represent respect restored. The stadium lights refracted off its petals, creating a gentle glow that bathed him in warmth. It wasn't a gimmick, he insisted in interviews. It was a promise to audiences that the magic between artist and fan was sacrosanct. Critics who had once labeled him difficult were silenced. Reviews celebrated not just the quality of his voice after 6 decades, but the confidence with which he commanded the stage. Tom Jones is not just a singer, wrote one prominent music journalist. He is a testament to the power of persistence and principled artistry. Video clips of standing ovations went viral, generating headlines about a comeback that transcended chart positions. Backstage, Tom remained vigilant. His entourage included 3 trusted advisors, his lawyer, an audio specialist, and a longtime confidant who ensured none of the backstage politics could ever undermine him again. He consulted them daily, frequently revisiting the clause that had caused the debacle. He joked publicly that he now read every draft of every paper he signed, no matter how small, and treated it as part of his set list. Meanwhile, Tom's influence began to ripple through the careers of rising stars. At an industry panel in London, he shared the stage with a chart-topping pop singer who confessed that Tom's ordeal had inspired her to fight for a voice in her own production credits. After her performance, she embraced him on stage, tears in her eyes, calling him the patron saint of artistic integrity. In Nashville, a country artist publicly dedicated a song to Jones, crediting him with showing how to balance creative passion and contractual savvy. Perhaps most surprising was the resurgence of Jones's own recordings. Streams of his classic hits spiked by 400% after each tour date. Playlists curated by younger listeners flooded with tracks from his 70s and 80s heyday. Record labels began reissuing deluxe editions of his albums, complete with newly unearthed B-sides and behind-the-scenes footage that chronicled the making of his most iconic songs. Demand was so high that even vinyl pressings sold out within hours of announcement. Through it all, Tom remained grounded. He returned nightly to the same modest hotel room, eschewing luxury suites in favor of a simple bed and a small vintage record player. There, he would unwind by listening to old jazz and blues records, reminding himself of why he had fallen in love with music in that cramped Gary, Indiana house so many years ago. He'd scribble notes in a leather-bound journal, ideas for new lyrics, reflections on the road, gratitude for fans who had refused to let his career end in disgrace. As the tour reached its grand finale in Tokyo, the city lights mirrored a galaxy of hopes realized. Tom dedicated the final encore to the crew members who stood by him, the fans who campaigned for his return, and even the unseen hands that had tested his resolve. "We all have stages we must face," he told the roaring crowd. "Some are literal, some are in life. But if you stay true, you'll always find your spotlight again." Even as the applause faded in Tokyo, Tom knew his journey was far from over. The incident that had once threatened to overshadow his legend had become a catalyst for transformation, both for him and the industry. In the weeks that followed, he set his sights on a new challenge: mentoring the next generation of performers. His countryside estate in Wales hosted monthly masterclass evenings, where aspiring singers and musicians gathered to learn the art of stagecraft contract negotiation, and emotional resilience. Each session began with Tom recounting the infamous festival fiasco, framing it as a lesson in the importance of standing firm on principle. He guided students through mock contract clauses, coached them on clear communication with promoters, and taught them how to channel adversity into creative fuel. Word of these evenings spread quickly, attracting not only singers but songwriters, choreographers, and even sound engineers eager to collaborate. The program grew organically, taking place in converted barns and old chapels warmed by wood stoves and candlelight. Tom insisted there be no lecture fees. Instead, attendees were asked to donate instruments, studio time, or a small sum to the Performers' Rights Alliance. In this humble setting, the lines between teacher and student blurred. Seasoned professionals shared their war stories, and newcomers offered fresh perspectives on digital promotion, social media strategy, and fan engagement. It was a vibrant exchange that mirrored Tom's belief that respect must flow both ways. Meanwhile, on the recording side, Tom began work on his next studio album, his 20th solo project. He chose a title dripping with symbolism, Phoenix Rising. The album would feature collaborations with artists whose careers he had quietly influenced, the pop singer from London, the Nashville songwriter, even a rising Welsh folk duo. Sessions took place in a historic studio in Monmouth, its walls lined with gold records and vintage microphones. Tom's approach was deliberate. He recorded his vocals first, leaving gaps for collaborators to weave in their signatures. Tracks range from a soulful duet about overcoming betrayal to an anthemic rocker celebrating artistic freedom. When lead single Unbreakable Heart dropped, it soared to the top of adult contemporary charts within days. Lyrics like I Walk Through Fire, Still Felt the Flame resonated with fans who had witnessed his public fall and triumphant return. Critics praised the album for blending classic Jones vibrato with modern production, calling it his most relevant work in decades. Phoenix Rising debuted at number 2 on global charts and inspired a wave of covers by indie artists, further cementing his cross-generational appeal. Offstage, Tom's advocacy took on political dimension. In partnership with the Performers' Rights Alliance, he testified before a parliamentary committee in Westminster, urging legislation to protect artists' technical writers and guarantee transparent festival protocols. He delivered his speech in that same deep baritone so familiar to millions. No performer should ever fear being silenced because of a misplaced memo or backstage vendetta. Art thrives on trust, and trust requires accountability. The committee voted unanimously to draft new guidelines, signaling perhaps the most significant policy shift in live music in decades. As Phoenix Rising tour dates rolled out across Europe, North America, and Asia, Tom maintained his sanctuary rituals, the single white rose before each first song, the vintage record listening in his modest hotel room, and nightly journal entries reflecting on lessons learned. The stage no longer felt like a battleground, but a place of communal ritual, a shared promise between artist and audience. And in every city, as he lifted that rose, the crowd's roar reminded him that true legends aren't defined by unbroken records, but by the integrity they fight to preserve. In the months following the Phoenix Rising tour, Tom found himself reflecting on the unlikely trajectory of a career punctuated by triumph, scandal, and reinvention. Few artists have witnessed an on-stage expulsion so public and humiliating, and even fewer have transformed that moment into a cornerstone of influence and advocacy. Yet here he was, decades into a storied journey, still drawing lessons from adversity and channeling them into action. His story had transcended mere entertainment. It was now a case study in resilience and the power of integrity. Videos of his keynote testimonies, fan reactions, and masterclass workshops became content gold on digital platforms. Young creatives dissected his methods, from insistent contractual clauses to the symbolism of the white rose. Some even staged mock demonstrations at local concerts, forging petition drives to secure similar protections for regional performers. In this way, Tom's ordeal reverberated far beyond sold-out arenas and festival grounds. It touched communities that had never heard his voice in person, inspiring a new generation to demand respect before cheering from the audience. Meanwhile, legacy labels reissued deluxe box sets of his early recordings, complete with essays analyzing the evolution from promising teen vocalist to international icon. Documentaries captured his unguarded moments backstage, illustrating the transformation from a man pulled off stage to one who stood as the standard-bearer for artist rights. Festival organizers began consulting with the Performers' Rights Alliance for guidance, ensuring that no performer would again suffer the fate of a silent microphone or an unexpected escort. Even the language of festival contracts evolved, with clauses mandating transparent communication protocols and unbiased technical audits. At award shows, tributes poured in. Artists who had been part of the master classes spoke on camera, crediting Tom with helping them negotiate record deals or fend off backstage sabotage. Composers dedicated songs. Choreographers designed dances named The Rose Ritual in homage to his White Rose tradition. And in the new documentary, Unmuted, released on the anniversary of that infamous expulsion, Tom watched footage of the original moment with a calm smile, paused it, and then turned to the camera to say, "You see that? That was me, naked and vulnerable. But what came after was mine to rewrite." For audiences worldwide, Tom Jones's experience served as both caution and inspiration. It reminded powerhouse personalities that charisma and talent could be undercut by unseen clauses and shadow directives. More importantly, it showed that no contract, no directive, nor any doctored memo could override an artist's dedication to authenticity. The stage remained a sacred space, a realm where trust between performer and crew, artist and audience, must be honored above all else. As he approached his 80th year, Tom prepared for a semi-retirement tour aptly named Legacy and Liberation, celebrating decades of defiance, artistry, and reform. His final performances included whispered acknowledgments of the microphone's first failure and the rose held aloft. The applause that followed wasn't just for a song. It was for a legacy forged in adversity, a testament that even icons can be vulnerable and yet stand undiminished.